They found the camera in the woods, a year after the girl had vanished. There were 237 photographs on it. The last 3 were taken when she was already dead. And those images were the only thing left of the entire investigation. It was the fall of 2009 in Pierce County, Washington. Volunteers clearing storm debris noticed a black backpack, half buried under the wet soil near an overgrown trail. Inside, a water bottle, a notebook, and a Canon EOS 350D camera. On the battery compartment sticker, almost erased by rain, was a name, M. Holloway. At the time, no one recognized it. But in the county archives, a case file had been gathering dust for over a year. Case number W09213. The file belonged to a 20-year-old art student from Tacoma named Megan Holloway, who disappeared in August 2008. When the camera's memory card was cleaned and restored, investigators recovered 237 images. Most of them were ordinary: city streets, friends, university corridors, road signs. But the final 37 were different. They were all taken deep in the forest between August 2nd and 4th, 2008, the days before she disappeared. The first few showed trees, a tent, a fire pit. Then came long exposure night shots, fog, raindrops, streaks of light. The final 3 were the ones no one could explain. Photo number 235. The camera pointed downward, half buried in soil. Number 236. A blurred image, a human shape standing just behind her. Number 237. Total darkness. The flash hadn't fired. Metadata showed those last pictures were taken at 2:47 a.m., August 4th, 12 hours after Megan's phone last connected to the network. Detective Robert Larson was assigned to reopen the case. Using the geolocation data embedded in the photos, his team plotted the area, roughly 4 square miles between Eatonville and Greenwater, at the edge of Mount Rainier National Park. The locals called that stretch the Silent Woods Triangle. Since the 1990s, more than 20 people had vanished there without a trace. Most were hikers or photographers. No bodies were ever recovered. Larson's team followed the path captured in the photos. Each image became a marker: a bridge, a ridge, a cluster of fir trees. Eventually, they reached a clearing matching the final frames. There, near the dried riverbed, they found what looked like an old camp. A torn piece of fabric, a rusted tent pole, and a soaked notebook. The writing was mostly gone, but one line was still visible. Heard footsteps behind the tent tonight. Dated August 3rd. The next page was blank. Back at the forensic lab, analysts studied the digital data. Several image timestamps were out of order. Some photos appeared to have been taken 3 hours later than physically possible. The internal clock of the camera hadn't drifted randomly. It had been manually reset, meaning someone else could have used it after Megan. In image number 231, technicians spotted a faint horizontal light, a reflection consistent with another camera flash, positioned directly opposite Megan's. No second camera was ever found. Field notes from the search described the same unease among officers: compasses misfiring, radio static, and a sense of being watched. The dense, fog-heavy forest distorted sound. Footsteps echoed long after a person had stopped walking. The official report called it auditory mirage due to humidity. Unofficially, the team refused to camp there again. 3 weeks into the renewed search, they discovered something new: the remains of a small wooden structure buried under moss. It wasn't on any park maps, Inside, a metal cup, a piece of fabric, and a burnt camera frame. Soil tests confirmed the same textile fibers as the clothing Megan was last seen wearing. Thermal scans showed residual heat in the area, as if someone had stood there recently. The forensic reconstruction suggested the last photos followed a pattern. Megan had been moving backward, taking a picture every few steps. Then, in the final frames, the perspective suddenly moved forward again, as if someone else had picked up the camera. In November 2009, the lab issued a confidential summary. It concluded that the final images were captured under conditions inconsistent with independent human operation. The statement was never released to the public. By winter, the case stalled again. Spring brought one more anomaly. In March 2010, a manila envelope with no return address arrived at the Pierce County Sheriff's Office. Inside was a flash drive. It contained 7 photographs, all from the same camera, but taken weeks after Megan's disappearance. One image showed the fire tower seen in her photos. A figure was standing on top of it. The shape was human, but no features could be distinguished. Pixel analysis ruled out digital manipulation. By the end of 2010, the Woods claimed 3 more victims, all young women, all last seen hiking near the same riverbed. After the 3rd, the area was officially closed. Locals spoke of flickering light between the trees, like the flash of a distant camera. By 2015, the Holloway file filled 3 boxes: photographs, notes, forensic logs, the recovered flash drive. Detective Larson retired that year. His final remark in the file read, "If she simply got lost, the camera would have stayed in the tent." Someone carried it deeper. In 2016, after a spring flood, hunters found a small metal case caught between the rocks of a nearby stream. Inside was a compact disc labeled M. Holloway, August 2008. The CD contained 20 images, duplicates of those from the camera. But these had been edited. Under increased contrast, new shapes emerged. Faint outlines between the trees, a dark form standing closer with every frame. The metadata on the disc showed the files were saved in 2009. A full year after Megan disappeared. Who copied them, no one knows. Later audits found that the original files in the police database had been manually deleted. Access logs pointed to only one user, Detective Robert Larson. When officers tried to reach him, his address no longer existed. Today, no official records of case number W09213 remain. Only fragments, images circulating quietly on private forums. A tent in the fog, a blurred tree line, and on the final photo, a faint figure standing behind her, half hidden in the light. The timestamp reads 2:47 a.m. 1 second later, the camera shut down. No one knows who was holding it. By spring 2017, the disappearance of Megan Holloway was officially marked unsolved. The case file sat closed in Pierce County records. But inside the Department of Digital Forensics, strange reports began to surface. Archived photographs from Holloway's camera were reappearing on internal servers, each time with new timestamps, as if someone was manually rewriting the files. Security logs showed the user ID RLARSEN_09, though that account had been deactivated a year earlier. Every re-uploaded image carried the same timestamp, 2:47 a.m., the exact time of the final photo on her camera. Something, or someone, was restoring the deleted data from within the system. An internal audit was launched. Physical evidence from the Holloway case The CD, the flash drive, even the notebook from her backpack was missing. In their place were perfect reproductions. Same handwriting, same layout, but printed on modern paper. According to analysts, the paper stock was manufactured at least 8 years after the originals. To verify authenticity, the department formed a temporary task force under the codename Mirrorline. Its goal: rebuild the complete digital timeline of the Holloway case. The team included forensic specialists, programmers, archivists, and 2 of Detective Robert Larson's former colleagues. All work was conducted offline, on isolated servers. After 3 weeks, they compiled everything that still existed. Original photographs, duplicates from the flash drive, copies from the CD, and old lab reports. In total, 264 images. But the server logs didn't match. The combined file size was too large, and there were 23 more images than listed in inventory. No one in the team admitted adding new material. The extra photos contained no EXIF data, no timestamps, no camera model, no GPS tags. Each shot came from the same static angle, as if a camera had been left on a tripod, aimed into the forest. The first few showed only fog, then faint light between the trees. By the 23rd frame, the image dissolved into static. Pixel analysis confirmed that the visual pattern matched moss and branches from Holloway's last photographs. Identical composition, identical location. But the digital signatures dated them to August 2nd, 2023, 6 years after the Mirrorline project ended. Moments after the team opened the new directory, the isolated server registered a brief external connection. Less than 1 second. Then everything went dark. The IP address traced back to a property once owned by Robert Larson. The house had been abandoned for years. The Mirrorline program was terminated immediately. All data was transferred to a federal archive. Only one analyst, Neil Connor, continued to study the files from home. He claimed to see a human figure hidden in the static of the final frame, someone standing between the trees. 2 months later, Connor stopped coming to work. When police entered his apartment, they found his computer still running. On the screen, one sentence typed into the metadata field: "He's standing behind me." Following that, the Justice Department ordered all Mirrorline material destroyed. Official reason: protection of personal data and prevention of public panic. Unofficially, no one wanted this case reopened. But it reopened itself. In August 2019, a former officer from the original task force received an envelope with no return address. Inside was a single flash drive containing one video file. The title read, "M. Holloway, Restored Footage." Duration, 18 seconds. The image was distorted but recognizable. Night forest, a weak beam of light like from a flashlight. At 5 seconds, a female figure appears. She turns toward the camera and a blinding flash fills the screen. In the final frames, before the cut, a hand reaches forward. Forensic experts soon realized it wasn't an actual video. Each second consisted of a separate still photo, 19 in total, merged into sequence. The last 5 frames showed a different background. Concrete walls, not forest. Under high contrast, a symbol became visible on one wall. 3 vertical lines crossed by one horizontal. The same mark carved into the mine wall back in 2010. From that moment, control over the case was gone. The official investigation resumed only for appearances. Detective Elliot Ritter led the review, a pragmatist convinced that every anomaly had a human origin. He requested all remaining Mirrorline logs and Larson's encrypted field notes. 3 weeks into the audit, his team uncovered a hidden folder in the Mirrorline archive. It held 5 images, technically identical to Holloway's originals, but tagged with a different author. Metadata line, photographer R. Larson. The photos showed the same forest, but during autumn. Frame 1, an empty clearing. Frame 2, Megan's backpack at the base of a tree. Frame 3, a hand holding a camera, the flash reflecting off the lens. Frame 4, footprints leading toward the old cabin. Frame 5, darkness. That meant Larson had returned to the site at least a year after the case was closed. In an unsigned memo dated October 2010, he had written, "The return is complete. She didn't leave. I just shouldn't have looked. Fingerprint analysis later confirmed partial matches. Larson's prints over Holloway's on the recovered camera body. He hadn't just archived her evidence. He had handled it again, personally. The question was why? Records showed Larson had spent his final months working in the department's digitization unit, scanning old case photos into the electronic database. He had full access to the Holloway files and to the software capable of altering metadata. But the recurring 2:47 a.m. anomalies couldn't be explained by user manipulation. The system itself generated them. Ritter uncovered another file, footage from a surveillance camera inside the evidence vault, time-stamped August 2, 2016. It showed a man in a raincoat entering the archive after hours, disabling the alarm, and opening the storage cabinet containing the Holloway CD. At 2:47 a.m., the lights flickered, the feed glitched, and the figure vanished mid-frame. The final 10 seconds of the video were overwritten with a still image. Night forest, the fire tower in silhouette, a flash in the distance. Pixel data confirmed it was identical to Holloway's photo number 236. A week later, Ritter drove to the same location in Pierce County. The bridge was gone, the creek dried up. He scanned the clearing and detected metal beneath the soil. 20 centimeters down, he found a decayed camera body. Inside was a memory card, corroded but readable. It contained a single file, IMG000. No format, no metadata. When decoded, it revealed a photograph of the same clearing from a different angle. In the center stood a man in police uniform holding a camera. The name tag read, R. Larson. Behind him, barely visible, the outline of a woman with her head bowed. The reflection in the lens showed he was photographing himself. Forensics dated the image to August 3, 2008, 02:47 a.m. The exact moment of the final photo on Holloway's camera. Everything aligned. The last 3 photographs on her device were not taken by her. They were taken by him. That night, Detective Robert Larson had already been in the forest. He was never listed on the response roster, but radio logs confirmed his call sign activating at 1:58 a.m. Officially, he was responding to a false signal. He likely found Megan first. What happened next remains unknown. There were no signs of struggle, but his later actions made the pattern clear, returning to the site, manipulating archives, recreating images at the same exact time each year. Always 2:47 a.m. The final internal report concluded, probable cause of death. Actions of a department officer concealed under investigative procedure. Subsequent data leaks identified as self-replication of materials under codename Mirrorline, generated by same officer to manipulate archives. No charges were filed. Larson was declared missing. His house was sealed. Inside, investigators found only one working laptop connected to an offline network. On the desktop, a folder titled Mirrorline_Final. Inside, 237 images, every one a duplicate of Megan's photographs. But in the final 3, the forest was gone. Only a white background remained, and within it, a faint reflection. A man holding a camera, pointing directly at the viewer. The author field read, M. Holloway. The case officially closed on October 22, 2019. Unofficially, no one opens those images anymore. All copies were destroyed, except one. It rests in the Federal Archive in Seattle, labeled Case File W09213, closed. But every year, on August 2nd, the Mirrorline backup server activates itself. And in the system logs, the timestamp never changes. 2:47 a.m.